Hello. I'm going to talk today about rejection versus discernment. So you might notice in some of my videos I talk about the left and the right rather than good and bad. But I also notice, I do still refer to the good stuff, the high vibration stuff, and the low vibration stuff. And just to offer some more clarity on that, I still have a preference. And any yogi that's reached these high levels of awareness might say there is no good or bad, everything's equal, but they got there by choosing love, by choosing high vibration, by choosing spirituality. There's still a choice involved. And once you get there, you can sort of say, I have no preference anymore. But you don't get there by having no preference, I guess. There's a pathway, many different pathways, but there's pathways. And I want to talk about realizing that, you can have a preference, of course. You're going to choose bliss and happiness over darkness, depression and anxiety and all that sort of low vibration sensations that cause a lot of discomfort, suffering. What I want to actually talk about is that even though you might have a preference, the lower vibration stuff is still just as valuable, because it's the value in those is that they are teaching you how to appreciate and move towards the higher vibrational stuff. They're showing you where your blockages are. They're showing you where the areas within you that could do with your attention to be healed, to be transcended, or to be whatever you want to call it, to be dealt with, to be looked at, to be held, to be accepted and loved. So what does that look like? Obviously keep choosing the high vibration stuff when you have conversations. Maybe keep your conversations a little bit high vibration rather than fear focused, love focused, connection and stuff, good stuff. The stuff that you prefer, that feel nice. And perhaps your thoughts where possible. And I know sometimes when you have a lot of suppressed emotion, your thoughts kind of get taken over. But at the same time, we can choose good thoughts. We can choose our input. We can choose to sleep more where possible, to go to bed at a decent hour, or to make sure that we're not going to bed late knowing that we have to get up early, that sort of thing. We can manage our sleep as much as possible, manage our diet, manage our exercise, manage our input, what we're watching on TV or on the internet, what we're listening to, what we're engaging in, like really monitoring our input. This is discernment. The crucial ingredient here is that we're not rejecting something and then choosing something else, because that's just resistance, and it builds the shadow, like I've mentioned before. It builds up in the background and causes more rejection and resistance inside. So as we monitor our input, we want to do it from a place of discernment, where it's just a choice, not I don't want that, but I will have this, because that's still an addictive tendency, still has that energy of neediness behind it and escapism. We want to move into the thing we want without being fearful of the other thing. Now, I do believe, this is my personal belief, and you might not agree with this, I don't know, depending on your experiences. I think rejection does have a place if you're aware of what's going on there. I'm going to give you an example. So in the spiral dynamics I've mentioned before, in spiral dynamics, when somebody moves out of the colour orange, which is all very success and power sort of focused and materialism, and then they move into green, which is more about the environment and things like that, they might then become vegetarian or vegan or something like that. A very common sort of behavior, I guess, that can start to be expressed at that point, when the person moves into green, when they start to raise their awareness and look at, oh yeah, maybe I'll eat a little bit differently, maybe I will stop drinking quite so much. Maybe I will engage. And they start to raise their awareness, start to look at the bigger picture. Maybe I'll recycle more and that sort of stuff. And then they move into green. What can often happen is they become almost kind of sanctimonious. And they start rejecting. So suddenly all people who eat meat are murderers, and they're ruining the planet and they're destroying the planet. And even though they were still in that space 2 weeks ago, they suddenly start to look down the nose at everybody else. Now I'm doing this and you're bad and I'm good. And this can be you'll have seen people go through it. I'm sure you will have seen friends or family members, people that have gone through this exact experience, where suddenly they make a shift and then everybody else is bad. Rather than just raising awareness of this new way of being from a positive aspect and saying, there's a lot of health benefits I've found, they might go, I can't believe you're doing that. This is rejection rather than discernment. So you can see it. Now, I do think it has a place if that person, they know that they're going to find it difficult to make a change. And yourself, let's bring it back to you and to me. If we know that it's going to be difficult to make a change, maybe just having a period of rejection within us, that aversion from something, might actually serve us well temporarily, so that we don't slip back into the old thing very easily. And again, this is just a belief. It's where I'm at now, and it might change, but I do think it might serve a purpose. As long as you're aware that is what's happening, I think it helps to bring awareness into everything. So say, I am only rejecting this temporarily until I've found my new habit and I've raised my vibration. And even though I'm rejecting it, I'm not going to then become sanctimonious and start to preach, and pontificate about this stuff and start to tell everybody else that they're wrong. I'm just using it as a tool. I'm using rejection as a tool to evolve, to move forwards and to break an old pattern. So for another example might be smoking. You might give up smoking, and I know from experience, when I gave up smoking, just for a short period afterwards, it stunk. Like if I smell it on someone else, I'm like, oh God, I could smell it. And at the same time, your taste comes back and your sense of smell comes back quite intensely, because you're used to that being sort of dulled down, and suddenly it comes back. And you can start to reject it and like, I'm so glad I don't do that anymore. It's disgusting. But then shortly after that wears off again, because you get also desensitized again. You go from not being able to smell smoke to being able to smell it and rejecting it, to being able to smell it and not rejecting it so much, because it kind of becomes normalized again. You get used to being able to smell it, if that makes sense. And that's actually a really nice little metaphor, a really nice example of exactly what it is I'm talking about. So yes, to look at discernment versus rejection, and find that as long as if you're rejecting consciously, fair enough, but discernment is what we're aiming for. To just choose consciously one thing over another without deciding one of them's bad. To not look at your old self or your old ways of being and go, I was so bad back then. But rather just, that's how I was then, and this is where I'm at now. But to honour those feelings as they come up. If you do feel rejection of your old self, honour the feelings, but also you can add the new meaning to it from a new level of consciousness. You can add new perspective to it and say, I did the best with what I had at the time, and that's okay. And now I'm moving into a whole new area, and that's also okay. And everybody else who's behaving how I used to behave are still okay. I don't need to reject anything about them. What you can do is you can do what I'm doing now and share the new stuff and talk about it, and perhaps inspire people who are ready to make a change, to plant seeds for other people to perhaps start to take steps forward as well, and to release themselves from their old patterns and their old programming. So rejection versus discernment, something to bear in mind. a very important aspect of maintaining comfort and flow throughout your journey. The less rejection you have, the more comfortable the journey is going to be. Bring awareness. So it's like, okay, I'm noticing this. I'm just noticing that this is happening. And that's okay. I'm noticing that sometimes I want that and sometimes I want this. And that's okay. And I'm choosing this. I hope that's clear. The goal, I will repeat myself, and I've mentioned it in many other videos, is to release the resistance. The resistance is the suffering. Release the resistance and still make choices. You can still have a preference. We're not saying just throw everything out. You can still have a preference, and if your preference is love and connection and happiness, so be it. You can move into that, but still appreciate the value in the dark times, because that is the fuel that many of us use when we hit that rock bottom. We use that suffering and pain as a teacher, as a guide, as a GPS system to give us that impetus and that motivation to move towards the light. Okay, hope this finds you well. Loads of love and gratitude, and to help me get these videos out to as many people as possible, I would really appreciate any shares, and also if you could like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That also helps to grow. YouTube like that stuff, and that's how we get it out to more and more people. That's how it starts to come up in other people's recommended videos, etc. So let's grow this community, let's grow this message, and let's do our best for the greater good and get this stuff out there. I will continue to deliver the best of the best content that I have access to, and offer lots and lots of points of view without ever desperately trying to change anybody. It's all about just offering perspectives and giving, sharing the benefit of my journey and what I've learned from my point of view. And if people choose to take that on, that's good. And if not, that's cool too. All right, so please like, share, subscribe, and let's get this out there. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.